Okay, so we're looking at some grading of some preps in this class too. So the height of the wall at the marginal ridge is good, the position's good. I'm looking down the axis. I can barely see that wall. I'd like to see that wall a little bit more. So a little more angle toward the marginal ridge would be better. Clearances are right on. Exit angles for amalgam, right on. Nice flat wall all the way down to the gingival. A hint of a retentive groove. I know an attempt was made to make a retentive groove. This one's a little more clear. You might have defined your internal line angle slightly deeper axially on the lingual side. Gingival clearance is just fine. You got your gingival floor angled, so yeah, I think probably just a very slight underextension axially on the lingual side. That would have made it easier and a little more into dentin. Okay, but that's just fine. All right, so let's take a look at 19. So over here, you've extended to include the distal pit, which a lot of people don't include. There's actually 2 distal pits. So you've included that nicely. You've got the prep. It could lean lingually a little bit more than it does right here, for example. But your walls, this little bit tall walls toward the distal, but you've kept it fairly flat, so you're probably just a little deep pulpally toward the distal, but otherwise fine. Okay, so this is a composite prep, so your clearances are still going to be the same, about 0.5 millimeter. So this is a slightly underextended. This is maybe slightly overextended. One of the things you could do is try turning the tooth. Sometimes that evens it up. Sometimes if you're using a hand instrument, the tooth rotates in the typodont. It all depends on how carefully somebody set up the typodont. And so if it rotates, turn it back by all means. Okay, so exit angle, a little bit obtuse here, just very slightly obtuse. Over here, also very slightly obtuse. Axial could be a little bit more convex. So it's a little deeper axially than you want toward the center, but not a big deal there. And you could have defined the internal line angle a little bit better here. Actually, if you did it now, if you defined that internal line angle a little bit better, it would make the axial wall look a little bit more like the convex shape that we expect. Okay, the gingival bevel is easy to see. It also makes a clean connection to both the facial lingual walls at the bottom of those walls. Slight damage on the adjacent tooth. A little bit of touching here and there, but not a serious error, certainly not a failing error. Okay, so let's take a look at the crown prep here. So it's a full gold crown. And so your clearances on the A plane, certainly pretty close to 1 millimeter. We're looking for 1.5 millimeters or so on the B plane. The angle doesn't seem to quite match the opposing tooth. So again, when we do the B plane, we tend to look this way so that you can take your vertical angle for the B plane from the adjacent tooth here. That'll make it match the opposing tooth. So if I look this way, yeah, you're a little horizontal, a little more horizontal than you could be, probably because you didn't quite get the center groove as deep as you could have. So make the center groove a little deeper, make the planes a little steeper on both the A and the B planes. That would be good. And then make a more obvious groove on the C plane. It's pretty clear when I look through here that you have adequate clearance, but it's hard for the lab to make a good groove there if you haven't made a good groove on your prep. So make it more obvious, and again, use that direction to do this whole C plane here, but otherwise your clearances are adequate everywhere, not quite as uniform as they could be. And again, more definition of this groove and a little more depth in the central groove probably would be a good idea. Okay, so you've got a fair amount of taper on the facial, it looks like, just looking from the occlusal. The angle here, yeah, you're just a little bit over tapered there. The secondary plane like this, you're a little over tapered on the secondary plane. Slight. It's not going to result in any kind of a problem in terms of retention or resistance for him. Mesial distal, the convergence seems to be fine. The champers, good size everywhere. You've gone down gingerly as far as you needed to get through the contacts without damaging the adjacent tooth, so that all worked out pretty well. A little air. Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, that's fine, thank you. Okay, so in any event, yeah, mesial distally, your convergence is fine. Checking between the corners. Make sure you check. Looking down the wall here, check the wall over here. Okay, so probably just slightly over tapered on the facial and a slight lack of definition in a couple of the grooves on the occlusal, but otherwise just fine. Okay, so let's look at this one. Got the ball burnisher handy? Okay, so we're going to measure the axis reduction at the shoulder. Here, here, and here. So you're probably about 0.7 or 8 right here. You're about 0.9 over here, about 0.7 or 8 over here. So it'd be nice to get a little more uniformity in the shoulder around into the embrasures a little bit farther so you can get more porcelain there. There's still a visible area. I noticed you marked where there was some damage prior to this prep. That damage doesn't look like it could be done with the burr that you're using for this prep anyway. Okay, and then let's check the taper on the facial. So the middle third right here, that's pretty good taper. Secondary plane, yeah, maybe a little bit over tapered on the secondary plane, just slight. Then we're going to check with the ball burnisher and make sure you've angled the shoulder gingerly in each area. Okay, so no problem there. No ski jumps, as we can tell by sliding the ball burnisher down the chamfer. The closest you come is probably right there. So a little bit of an edge right here. Just a little bit of an edge right there. So just a touch with the burr will take care of that. Your end of your burr got just 1/10 of a millimeter inside the tooth. Okay, so your incisor reduction, we're looking for 2 millimeters, and so you're probably 2.5 or so a little over reduced incisally. The clearance is just fine, so you've thought through that. You've reduced the marginal ridge compared to the adjacent tooth here and over here, so we can see what's happening there. All right, you might have reduced the cingulum just a little bit less and had a slightly taller wall around through here, but otherwise, you know, this prep is going to work out just fine. So anyway, all 4 of these certainly are clinically acceptable, and that's good. This is a prep from before. All right.